If you're like me, you're probably always trying to get the most result, the best looking garments with the least amount of effort, work, tears, struggle. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video, is what can we focus on? Like, what are the main 3 things to focus on that will give us the most results in our me-made garments? Because you don't want to focus on like everything. Just these top 3 will serve you much better. Sewing friends, welcome back. It is wonderful, absolutely wonderful to see you here again. If you're actually just joining us for the first time here, then welcome. My name's Evelyn Wood and I'm the creator of VintageSewingSchool.com. And here on this channel, we talk everything about garment sewing. So you can really start creating the clothes that you really want and learn sewing, but learn sewing really well. It's all in the small details. And of course, that's what we're talking about in this video. So, I mean, when we start to learn to sew, there's so much to learn and it can be quite overwhelming. And I always like to think about, and this is how I teach in my students at Vintage Sewing School, what are the smallest amount of details that make all of the difference in the end garment. Now, this has also been coined the 80-20 rule. I first sort of come across this in business terms and my online business, but it applies to everything in life as it turns out. What is the 80-20 rule? It is that the principle, and I found this to be true time and time again in my life, that 20% of your effort goes to 80% of the result. So we've got 80% of the result here, right? And then that other tiny 20% of result at the end would actually take you 80% more time to do that tiny little bit. Does that make sense? So we can spend, you want to be able to spend 20% of your time to get 80% of the results and get that's that point that you reach that is like good enough, because any more that you spend time on things after that is kind of not equivalent to the time, like the effort, energy, time put in. The results don't give you that same, reward factor. It takes a lot more effort in that last little part. And so that's kind of what we're always aiming for. So when we apply this to sewing is, what are the 20% of things, the 3 main little details that we can focus on that will actually give us 80% of how our garment ends up looking at the end, right? I know, it's exciting thought. To think about that you only need to focus on 20% of things, right? Okay, so I picked these 3 things because I know I pay particular attention to these in my own sewing, and I stress these to all my members of Vintage Sewing School and the way I teach, because I wish that I had known that these 3 make the biggest impact in our sewing. So the first one is the right fabric selection. And now this comes in 2 parts. The right fabric selection for 1, the design of the garment, and 2, your skill level. Let's start with skill level because you should start there. Now we have made, I've made many videos of fabrics, all about how to choose different types and all this sort of things. And I'll link them all down below so you can go watch those later. And most recently, we did talk about how in the series, Learn to Sew, Get Started Sewing this year, we talked about picking easy to begin with fabrics. 1, because you don't want to make this learn to sew thing harder than it has to be. Start with an easy fabric so you can learn all the other things without adding a difficult fabric in the works. And that's where choosing the right fabric for your skill level means you can get a really nicer result, because you're focusing on doing all of the other things like sewing straight lines, seam finishes, cutting out patterns, trying to pin things together, just even sewing all these weird pieces of fabric together. Learn all of that stuff and you'll get a better result when you don't also have to wrangle a really difficult fabric to begin with. And so then the other one, choosing the right fabric for the design of the garment. And you layer this as you get a little bit more skilled. You made a few garments, then you can start experimenting, because I know you're thinking, I don't want to sew with quilting cotton the rest of my life, and you shouldn't, and I don't recommend it either. You do want to challenge yourself in these beautiful fabrics because they are some of the nicest end garments, and that's where it comes into, is if you just keep choosing easy fabrics, for a design that is meant to be soft and floaty and you know, like have that beautiful drape to it, if you make it out of quilting cotton or even just anything with no drape at all, doesn't matter what it is, it's just not going to look the same. And the garment is, you know, even as if it's sewn amazingly, if it's not the right fabric that suits that design, it's whereas if you get the two right, oh, so good. And members of Vintage Sewing School, you know, there is an entire course on sewing fabrics and choosing fabrics, how to tell the difference between them, the drape, the structure, the weights, and all of the things are in there. And I'll link down below some YouTube videos that I've got referencing different fabrics as well, because it really is such a key. The more you learn about the material you work with, the better your results will be. So just spending time working that out, learning about fabrics, the touch, the feel, even just really basic things, and looking at it for the style, looking at it your skill, just spending more time selecting the right fabric for those things rather than just like, I love this one. Putting a bit more thought into it will give you better results at the end. And there's always room for those ones that you just pull up and are like, I'm making something out of this no matter what. There's always room for those as well, but it's just something to think about to get that 80, you know, 20% of efforts to put in 80% of the result is the right fabric for the right design and your skill level. Seam finishes is the next one. Now, if you're unsure, just in case, seam finishes are where you finish the raw edges of the like the fabric on the inside so that they don't fray, so it looks pretty, and like it's both function and aesthetic. And seam finishes do make such a difference to your end garment. Now I know what you're thinking. They're on the inside. It doesn't even matter for the outside of the garment. And yes, you are correct. The outside of the garment will have no impact unless, of course, you don't do any seam finishes and you wash it and it starts fraying, etc. That will obviously impact your outside of your garment, but also on the inside. Now I know, well, you're probably like me because you're here watching my channel, because we have the same kind of sewing, you know, aesthetic, or not even aesthetic, but the same sort of ideas about our sewing. I know I want my garment, when I pick it up and I'm finished, I want to think, oh, that looks so beautiful inside and out, that it's made really well and it looks good. And I want to put it on my body and think, oh, like the effort and time I've put into it is amazing, and that's the kind of feeling I want. And I'm pretty sure that's probably what you're looking for too. Not just for it to look pretty on the outside and the inside is absolute garbage. I mean, it's a progression of skills, right? You get better and better and things get neater and neater. Spending time on your seam finishes for the right seam finish for the right fabric and the garment, and trying different ones and putting a little bit of thought into it, neatness, etc. Even though it is on the inside, I guarantee you when you're finished, you will just feel, oh, when you look at that whole garment, because you see it inside and out. When you put it on, you still see the inside. When it looks neat on the inside too, it will make it look amazing and protect it as well. And even think like open jackets and things that aren't, the right seam finishes on the inside make all the difference, because you can have amazing contrast ones, and it just adds to it a lot. It really does. So seam finishes are one of the main things that give you that sort of 80-20 to the end garment. We're talking whole end garment. The look, the details make the big difference. The next one, pressing. I know you were probably already waiting for this one. Anyone who's been around here for a while, and most of you already know I think pretty much every experienced seamstress, sewist that I speak to says the same things. Pressing or ironing, I mean, they are a little bit different, but you know, if just in case you're wondering, is just, you can't skip it. You need to do it as you go along, because the difference it makes is absolutely incredible. Like, it really is. If I tried to make up a garment and not press until the end, you know, it'd turn out and it'd look all right. But if you press as you go and press well and make sure everything is pressed, you don't even have to get better at sewing to get a really great looking garment. When it's pressed, it looks so much better, 10 times better when it's just pressed versus unpressed. So it's one really simple thing to pay attention to that will give you, you know, just spend that 20% more time just pressing and doing it well. All your seams are neat in the right directions, etc. No wrinkles, that sort of thing. Pressing all that really well. Or even like when you're doing hems and in between, don't skip and just like, oh, just roll it over at the machine and press it, fold it over, press it, fold it over, press it. Do it the long way, because you'll get a much better result. Pressing, well, gives your garment, like it lifts it by 80%. I know, you know, right? Send me a comment down below if you're on the pressing bandwagon and already know how to, like, if it looks a little bit dodgy, you just give it a press and it will look way, way, way better already. Well, these are my big three of what I think makes the biggest difference, that 80-20 rule, to the end garment. I would love to know what has been one little thing, one little detail that you think that might have not been on my list here is the biggest detail, like gives you the best result at the end. I'd love to hear it, and remember to read the comments down below because there is going to be so much great information down there from our fellow community members. We are a community here and we're all about helping each other learn to sew. So check out the comments down below as well and leave yours because I love reading through them. It's where I get all my video ideas from, and it's nice to know that you're not alone in this sewing journey, right? All right, my sewing friends, until next time, happy sewing. Bye.